Good morning. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely. President Trump en route back to the White House to make an announcement. We'll take you there live when that does happen on this fine Tuesday morning. We also welcome in Rich Rubino, an independent political analyst, to talk a few things on this New York City mayoral race now that Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor, has exited the race. Rich, thank you for joining us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
And, sir, what's your analysis as this continues? Because we have a situation here that's almost very similar to the Chicago mayoral race of 1987, where you have Democrats becoming Republicans, Republicans becoming Democrats, an incumbent mayor somewhat popular on the south side of the city, then having some trouble within establishment ranks. Now we have a situation in New York City where you have someone who's really a self-avowed communist running for this office, taking that Democrat nomination, and now an independent candidacy of the former Democrat Governor Andrew Cuomo and a perennial Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa. How do you see this three-way race now playing out since Mayor Eric Adams has exited the race?
Yeah, well, it is fascinating, and certainly very few people would have thought a couple of years ago that Andrew Cuomo would now be the candidate of many people in the Republican Party, many moderates, for example. But that's basically what's happened because he's seen as a counterweight to Mr. Mandani, if you will. So it's a very interesting scenario. I think the fact that Eric Adams has dropped out, you can really look at this two ways. On the one side, you can say that this means that there's going to be more support for Mr. Cuomo, because they were both basically going after the same group of voters, basically moderate Democrats, some independents, some Republicans. But on the other side of that, it does mean that potentially some of those supporters might go to Curtis Sliwa, and that could take votes. Could take votes away that would normally go to Andrew Cuomo. But it's interesting what you said about comparing it to the 1987 mayoral race. There are other examples of this as well. For example, I can think of the race in Connecticut in 1986 when Joe Lieberman was running against Lowell Weicker, and Lowell Weicker was a very liberal Republican. Consequently, some folks like William F. Buckley ended up supporting Joe Lieberman. Another example, because he was more conservative probably than Lowell Weicker. Another example would be 1990 when the Republicans in the primary nominated Bill Weld, who was very liberal socially, and the Democrats nominated John Silver, and John Silver was very conservative socially. Consequently, you had a scenario where a city like Cambridge, for example, one of the most liberal cities in the country, ended up voting for Bill Weld, and some of the more conservative parts ended up voting for John Silver. So it does happen once in a great while. Another example in Massachusetts, Ed King, who had beaten Ike Dukakis in 1978, and what was really an upset, running to his right in the general election. He was running against a guy named Frank Hatch, and Hatch was running basically as a liberal Republican. King was a conservative Democrat. Consequently, many Republicans ended up voting for King, and many Democrats ended up voting for Hatch.
And in addition to this race, and thank you for that background, Rich, because it really is quite fascinating. I think it puts into our lens an understanding of modern American politics. And right now in this off year of 2025, you have Virginia, New Jersey gubernatorial races, plus the New York City mayoral race, perhaps the three largest ones, as President Trump wants to put a Republican midterm convention. I'm not sure on the last time that's happened, as they tend to be every 4 years. But are these three races really a good setting or scale for what's to come in the midterms and then consequently 2028?
Yes, I think it's really can be a precursor. Generally speaking, the party that holds the White House tends to lose the governorship in Virginia and New Jersey. And then in a midterm election, generally speaking, the party that holds the White House tends to lose seats. For example, especially in a 6 year of a presidency, by the way, it's called the 6-year itch. Bill Clinton in 1998, there was a revulsion again. There was a revolt against the attempt to impeach him. Consequently, Bill Clinton, the Democrats actually picked up seats. That was the first time that happened since James Monroe back in 1820. So normally speaking, the party loses seats, and this is seen as a precursor. What usually happens is the party that wins the presidency. There's a lot of enthusiasm for that person, and a lot of people come out and just vote for the party, just vote for that person for president. But then when you get to the midterm elections, when you get to the gubernatorial elections, a lot of those people tend to stay home. The people who are most angry at the party in power are more likely to come out and vote. And that's what you essentially see in a place like Virginia and New Jersey. The Republicans, in the case, first of all, New Jersey is a center-left state. Virginia is becoming more and more of a center-left state. So the odds would be that in both cases that the Democrats should essentially win. What also happens is when they do win, it oftentimes becomes a recruiting magnet for other Democrats who might run in more moderate states and even in red states, who say if they won in Virginia, they won in New Jersey, I could potentially win a seat in Congress. I could win a state representative seat because they figure that more Democrats are likely to come out in the midterm elections. Donald Trump is going to do everything he possibly can, I think, politically to try to change that. He saw what happened in 2018 when he lost power after Democrats picked up the House of Representatives. So he wants to do everything he possibly can to make sure that history does not repeat itself.
A two-part question here regarding that. So in 2026, do you think President Trump will hold rallies like he did 2016, because this is, in a sense, the last hurrah, the lame duck presidency, although there has been this discussion of a potential third term? And then in addition to that, he seems to be making it the standard with Mamdani, and in turn, Mamdani, where he stands in his social and fiscal issues, very far to the left, that now Mamdani is that gold standard of Democrat thought. Do you think that will help the MAGA base to turn out more in 26? Or, like you said, does this embolden a new Democrat left to perhaps dig their heels deeper and run in, say, the Deep South and try to get in red territory if the Mr. Mamdani is successful in New York City?
That's a great question. And in terms of Mamdani specifically, the Democrats want to make him. They want to run against Mamdani everywhere. If you're running in Senate seat in Georgia, you're running somewhere else, they want to make Mamdani the poster child, if you will, of the Democratic Party. They want to portray him as somebody who's far left. They want to portray him as a socialist. And then socialism, by the way, unlike in other countries, there's always been a socialist party in the United States. We've had many of them, the Socialist Workers' Party, Socialist Party USA. But unlike in other countries, the socialist label has never caught on. So consequently, most Democrats try to run away from that label. You see a scenario where even in New York State right now, in New York, you have Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who have refused to endorse Mamdani. That obviously could cause a lot of angst in the Democratic Party, and I think that the Mamdani forces are looking for somebody to try to challenge Hakeem Jeffries in his reelection bid if he does not make that endorsement, which would mean that Hakeem Jeffries is going to have to spend a lot more time bending his own seat, where he should be going off to places like Maine and Georgia and Florida campaigning for Democrats. But I think that Donald Trump doing those rallies, I think the problem is for Donald Trump doing those rallies right now is his job approval rating is under 50%. And a lot of those Democrats who are running are going to try to run against Donald Trump. Where he's popular, the places that he's popular, those members of the House, those members of the Senate are probably going to win overwhelmingly anyway. So perhaps the scenario for Donald Trump is to kind of stay in the background and do fundraising, try to make phone calls for some of the candidates. That's usually what happens, by the way. That's usually the protocol when you have a president who's under 50%. And usually in a 6 year of a presidency, the incumbent president almost invariably is under 50%. But I do think they're going to try to make Mamdani a poster child. But that being said, there's really a civil war right now in the Democratic Party. There's folks like the Blue Dog Coalition, which are the moderate and conservative Democrats, who are trying to recruit Democrats in red states, in purple states, to run for office, and they want them to run on a more centrist platform, try to run against the Washington establishment, but basically try to run on a centrist platform. Then there are those that are saying, look, we've succeeded. We need somebody more with the Bernie Sanders AOC type of ideology. I think that generally speaking, you hear a lot, the Democrats, they don't have a message. What's the Democrats' message? But I think if you look at it from a purely tactical standpoint, the Democrats really don't need a national message. They need a message that's very specific to their state, specific to their congressional district. And in the case of Democrats who are trying to either run for re-election in like those 13 members who represent districts that last time went for Donald Trump, they need to distance themselves from the national party as much as they possibly can. They need to say that I'm running on issues, I'm related to Maine, related to Georgia, related to Virginia, wherever the case may be. Whereas those who are on the progressive left, generally speaking, they come from districts that are overwhelmingly Democrat, and the only way they can possibly lose is if they show some independence from being a progressive, and then they have a primary challenge. So for them, it's in their political best interest to try to run as far left as they possibly can.
It's very interesting. Do you think that it was surprising to see Governor Kathy Hochul come out and then endorse Mr. Mamdani, considering she's outside of the city and has to govern the entire Empire State? Rather, Hakeem Jeffries in a unique position as minority leader, having to be reelected in the 4th District, which is the city itself, where you might have more progressive voters, because upstate New York, rather conservative place. Does this give someone like an Elise Stefanik, who is in Congress but expected to announce for a 2026 bid for governor of New York, some legs to become a Republican viable candidate in the Empire State?
I think she's between a rock and a hard place, though. On the one hand, she kind of made the cost benefit analysis. On the one hand, she has to worry about obviously winning over moderate voters and at least trying to minimize her damage in places like Watertown, places like Albany, places like Utica, Endicott, Binghamton. But on the other hand on that, when she is running for re-election, she has to galvanize the base. And the base right now is not where Kathy Hochul is. It's not necessarily where moderate Democrats are. In the places like certainly most of New York City, parts of Buffalo, they are looking for somebody who is a progressive. They believe that the party has veered too far to the center. Consequently, if they could potentially stay home or even support a primary opponent in next year's midterm election against her. She knows that. She would rather get the support of some of those on the left who are kind of incredulous or skeptical of her, and she'd rather she knows she needs that, and I think she would try to minimize the damage. In the case of Hakeem Jeffries, it's very interesting because, and this is the case of Chuck Schumer as well. Well, Chuck Schumer, his political possibilities is he could run for re-election in 2028. I think the thoughts by a lot is that he's probably going to retire. But if he runs, has the potential of AOC running, if she does not run for president, running in a primary against Schumer. And if you look at the polls, the New York political Democratic base is a lot more with AOC than they are with Chuck Schumer, and she's winning by double digits right now. Now, the last thing a longtime New York senator, the dean of the New York delegation, somebody who's been minority leader, been majority leader, wants is to go out losing his own primary, the Democratic primary, to potentially AOC. So he could decide that he's just gonna not run in 2028 and be some sort of a hero to the Democrats and maybe make an endorsement in the primary. In the case of Hakeem Jeffries, I think what he's fearful of, he's looking at the national. He does not want, if he endorses Mamdani, he does not want to have to then go to a place like place in rural Pennsylvania campaigning for a Democrat, and then the question is going to be, why did you endorse Mamdani? The other hand, and it's really contrary-wise on that, and it's really an interesting calculation. The fact that he has not made this endorsement yet, and if he does make an endorsement, it'll probably be lukewarm, means that I think he's looking at this and he's saying, well, what happened to Joe Crowley? Joe Crowley was somebody who was Nancy Pelosi's would-be successor. He was running in a district in New York City, and he was spending a lot of his time outside of the district. He basically took AOC for granted. I think the thought process was she's going to get 15 to 20% of the vote, and then she'll be out. He didn't even show up for a debate. He had somebody his age show up in a debate against her, but there was a lot of angst in the left wing of the Democratic Party, and AOC had one of the biggest political upsets of all time, defeating Joe Crowley. Even before that, Eric Cantor. Eric Cantor was the majority leader in the House of Representatives, and he ended up losing his seat to David Bratt in 2014. So there is precedent for somebody losing a seat in a primary to somebody who's either more conservative in the case of David Bratt or more progressive in the case of AOC. And I really think this is something that he potentially fears. But again, he's kind of between a rock and a hard place politically right now. My guess is he makes an endorsement. It's kind of a lukewarm endorsement, and he doesn't say anything specific about him, other than the fact that he supports the party and he believes the party is the best vehicle. The Democratic Party is the best vehicle to support the working class. Something like that. It reminds me of 1972 when Lyndon Johnson endorsed George McGovern. And he didn't mention George McGovern's name. He said something to the effect of, well, I believe the Democratic Party best represents the people, therefore I will support my party's nominee. So it'll be something very similar to that, I think.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Rich Rubino, independent political analyst. Please come back and see us, as we are roughly 1 month and I think 3.5, 4 days until Election Day. It should be an exciting thing for us politicos to watch.
Thank you. Greatly enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
And as we cover President Trump, he just came from Quantico, Virginia, the Marine base there, to the White House. He has an announcement later today. We also have a press gaggle ready for you after some sponsorship announcements here. Angelpaste.com. It's the miracle that keeps on giving as, my goodness, Mr. Director, we are so close to the holidays. This is my favorite time of year. As the air gets a little bit crisper, you see the leaves start to change colors, and that means dry hands, and you want to keep your skin glowing when that dry weather comes around. Well, Angel Paste truly is the best. It's vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, just good things to put on your skin, because forget all these chemicals, these dyes, this nonsense that you find in the environment and with some products out there. Angel Paste is really leading the way as a Christian-owned company that hires veterans. They're based in Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. They also have the orange option, vitamin C infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, in addition to that lovely product. So go look at angelpaste.com for all of the multitude of products to keep your skin glowing, so you can go paint the town red, not only on the weekend, but every day of the week. Experience the miracle today. That is angelpaste.com. covepure.com/RSBN. I am so enthusiastic about this go-to reverse osmosis system, the best in the business. It's as small as the coffee maker you probably have right at home on your kitchen counter, and it's not loud at all either. So when you wake up early in the morning to rinse your system out, a great way to get the day started. Now, their Clearwater technology takes out 99.9% of the impurities, including fluoride, agricultural runoff, hormone disruptors, among many other things, impurities from the water. Utah and Florida also introducing legislation in the last few weeks to rid water of the fluoride poisoning that Secretary Kennedy has been on this topic, fighting for clean air and clean water for the entirety of his career. And now to do that through Health and Human Services, a true blessing for the United States of America. But protect what matters most. JAMA Pediatrics, it's terrible to think about this. Kids who drink from the tap water on a regular basis can lose up to more than 2 points in their IQ. So protect your family, protect your gut health, drink pure, live pure with covepure.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code there, $200 off of this leading system in reverse osmosis technologies, specifically Clearwater technology, to remove the poison out of your drinking water. covepure.com/RSBN. Now we have a press gaggle. President Trump right outside of Marine Base Quantico to speak with the press after an outstanding speech from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the Commander-in-Chief, laying it out for the military leaders who came across the world together again at Marine Base Quantico.
Mr. President, if there is a shutdown, how many federal workers do you plan to lay off?
Well, we may do a lot, and that's only because of the Democrats. And as you know, they want to be able to take care of people that have come into our country illegally, and no system can handle that. And so we're totally opposed on that. But we can't take it. We just can't do it. I'd love to do everybody. I'd love to do the whole world. But our country can't handle people that come into our country illegally. And they want to give them full health care benefits. They want to open the wall again. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it. They want to open the wall. They haven't taken away boys playing in women's sports. They haven't done that. Men playing in women's sports. It's like they don't change. They lost an election in a landslide, and they don't change.
How long do you plan to give Hamas to respond to the ceasefire proposal you put out?
Well, we're going to do about 3 or 4 days. We'll see how it is. All of the Arab countries are signed up. The Muslim countries are all signed up. Israel's all signed up. We're just waiting for Hamas. And Hamas is either going to be doing it or not. And if it's not, it's going to be a very sad end.
And is there a deadline, Mr. President? Is there room to negotiate, or is this a take it or leave it deal? Is there room to negotiate with Hamas, or is this a take it or leave it deal?
You know, with Hamas, we want very simple. We want the hostages back immediately. And we want some good behavior. And, you know, it's pretty simple. You don't get simpler. Think of it. We've signed every country in the Middle East. This was like an impossible thing. It's never been done before. This is more than Gaza. Gaza was big stuff, but Gaza is a piece of it.
And if they reject the deal, you said that Israel has your backing to do whatever they need to do. What do you envision that
I will let them go and do what they have to do. They can do it pretty easily. I would let them go and do what they have to do. You know, we've killed about 25,000 Hamas, so certainly they paid a big price for October 7th. And this is a whole new group. You know, they come in and they come in and they keep coming. But this is a whole different group. And their leadership has been killed 3 different times. So they paid a big price. We hope that they're going to have a nice, calm life. Maybe it won't happen. But if it does, it'll be one of the greatest things ever to happen. We'll have actual peace in the Middle East.
Are you preparing to take strikes against drug gangs in Venezuela, sir?
We'll see what happens with Venezuela. Venezuela has been very dangerous with drugs and with other things. And they've been very, very dangerous. So we'll see what happens with Venezuela. We had a lot of drugs coming in through water. We call it water drugs, just a simple term. We don't have any boats on the water. There are no boats. There are no fishing boats. There are no anything. So we hit a number of boats. You probably saw that. And since we did that, we have absolutely no drugs coming into our country via water because it was lethal. And now we'll look at cartels. We're going to look very seriously at cartels coming by land.
What do you plan to tell the Department of War in this address? Why gather all the generals in one place for a speech?
Well, this is only an esprit de corps. You know what esprit de corps is? This is only a spirit. We're going to be talking to him. Pete Hegseth is talking right now. I'm going to have to leave because I have to talk to him. But these are our generals, our admirals, our leaders. And it's a good thing. A thing like this has never been done before because they came from all over the world. And there's a little bit of expense, not much, but there's a little expense to that. We don't like to waste it. We'd rather spend it on bullets and rockets, frankly. But this was the one time we had to do a great spiritizing. It's going to be great. I've seen it already. We have every general, every admiral. We have great people. We have our real warriors over there. And when they're not good, when we don't think they're our warriors, you know what happens? We say, you're fired. Get out. We had some real bad ones last time. You know, I rebuilt the military, the entire military. But I had a couple, and I had unbelievable people. To do that, you have to. But I had unbelievable people in there. But I also had some bad ones at the top, like Milley and Mattis and Jesper. I called him too. Always too late, Jesper. He was horrible. So, but I learned because you know I was just in there, and I put these people in. They were recommended by rhinos and others, and they're not good. What we have now is the best. But even despite that, I rebuilt the military in my first term. We had a great first term. We had the greatest economy ever, and it's being beaten by a lot this time. So I'm going over. I'm going to be meeting. I'm going to be meeting with generals and with admirals and with leaders. And if I don't like somebody, I'm going to fire them right on the spot.
President Trump right before meeting with the military leaders at Marine Base Quantico on a number of topics from the shutdown to the peace proposal with Gaza through the assistance of Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House yesterday with a historic announcement. So really an early week situation on Monday and Tuesday with lots of peace proposals and talks ongoing on various topics domestically and internationally around the world. Well, it's very interesting that Democrats seem to have had a very different perspective on these shutdowns less than a decade ago or even beyond that, dating back to 2012, 2013, when Barack Hussein Obama was in the White House. These same Democrats, from the Palestinian Senator Chuck Schumer to Pocahontas, very interesting that they wanted to keep the government open then, but not now. What's interesting is we have playback of that. So enjoy these videos and these silly United States senators who seem to change their opinions willy-nilly.
To hold these people hostage instead of just letting them do their jobs, which they want to do while we work out our differences, so wrong.
This is democracy. And in a democracy, hostage tactics are the last resort for those who can't win their fights through elections, can't win their fights in Congress, can't win their fights for the presidency, and can't win their fights in the courts.
A government shutdown of any duration would harm hardworking Americans and our economy.
Why should we ask TSA officers to go without their hard-earned pay while they protect our airports?
I'm a senator from Virginia. Some of the hardest effects of shutdown will be seen in my state.
If the government shuts down, it will be average Americans who suffer most.
Some who right now are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent, how they're going to make mortgage payments, how they're going to keep college payments going, how they're going to keep the lights on, how they're going to keep food on the table.
Had the government shut down, hundreds of thousands of people would have not gotten their paychecks. Federal employees would have been furloughed, sent home.
Our military won't get paid. Head Start teachers won't get paid. Our wildfire fighters won't get paid. Federal prison guards won't get paid.
A government shutdown means seniors who rely on Social Security could be thrown into chaos. Our veterans could see regional VA offices shut down and support services put on hold.
Shutdowns are not good for the economy.
Shutdowns cost taxpayers billions of dollars per week.
Shutdowns cost the economy billions of dollars.
They cost businesses money. They could even cost a downgrade to the nation's credit rating.
Families who benefit from WIC and other nutrition programs could see benefits halted.
If this shutdown continues indefinitely, 39 million Americans will risk not having enough food. They will lose their SNAP benefits in February. So that means American children will be going to bed hungry. It's unacceptable.
The longer that this shutdown goes on, the more Americans that will be affected.
Critical services and our economy are being threatened with poison pill partisanship. Shutting down the government should not be a negotiating tactic.
Hostage taking is all they have left, a last gasp of those who cannot cope with the realities of our democracy.
The height of hypocrisy. Chuck Schumer has been in office longer than I've been alive. It's really remarkable. We need term limits, ladies and gentlemen, for Republicans and Democrats. Most states have found a way to address not only balancing their budgets, but also having some form of term limits in certain offices. Now, not all, but most addressing those issues. And that's why people want to live in the red states. They not only vote residents with actually going and voting in the ballot box or mail in or however you do it, but they also vote with their feet and move to greener pastures. Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for flu season prep. Prepare your medicine cabinet before flu season, whether it's cold, COVID, just the old school flu and the different strains that exist out there. There's a better way to handle it. It's with Tamiflu, antibiotics, antivirals, also ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue. There are biohacking techniques and weight loss programs. 200 essential medications that are life-saving. Also, emergency medical kits, antibiotics. Prepare that medicine cabinet right now before someone in your family wakes up with all of those sniffles. I have a lot of friends married with kids, and those little ones, gosh, we love to hang out with them. They're a blast to have around the house, but when they go to school, especially their first month, it's amazing how many people get sick as a result of that. So scan the QR code now, code RSBN10, RSBN10. It's 10% off now, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And no insurance, no red tape, no bureaucracy, just great doctors and pharmacists who care about you. They are patriots and want to get this life-saving medication affordable and to your door within 2 to 3 days of ordering. All Family Pharmacy. .com/RSBN. Will the shutdown happen? Will that happen today? These have been two historic days. Will the Palestinian government led by Hamas end up agreeing to these terms to eliminate the extremism from the radical Islamists in the Middle Eastern region? Who will win the Nobel Peace Prize? President Trump spoke on that. Oh, they'll probably give it to someone else given their far left feelings, but Oslo, Norway, this award is so deserved by the President of the United States, either solving or helping to solve 7 wars in roughly 7 to 8 months. Will President Zelensky meet with President Putin in a bilateral or trilateral fashion with the President of the United States present before January? Who will win the World Series? All of those questions answered, bet, and trade on literally anything. Kalshi.com/RSBN. No better time to sign up than right now, given that the baseball playoffs are about underway. So all of you know that I am rooting for my Chicago Cubs. Go Cubs, go. We can do it this year. God willing. It's always painful being a Chicago fan, but regardless, trade on anything. Kalshi.com/RSBN. We're excited to partner up with the finest in betting and trading online. Just about anything you can imagine and asked about right there at Kalshi.com/RSBN as we await a special announcement from the White House. President Trump en route back from Marine Base Quantico, where he made a really incredible speech this morning. And the man can literally talk about countless different items and topics in the span of slightly over 1 hour to military leaders right there at the base. Coming from around the world, in fact, to meet together at the call of the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. And this moment, I will call it today, perhaps the Patton moment for the Secretary of War. In his finest hour, his finest speech, to defeat the wokeism, to join with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, to combat the debris and the garbage that was found in the military thanks to Barack Hussein Obama and the Autopen and Lloyd Austin and those who sought to weaken the United States military in a world that can be extraordinarily dangerous. He hearkened back to 4th century politics and the Roman armies of the past. To be prepared for peace, to strive for peace through strength, you must be prepared for war. It's not that the military hates what's in front of it, more than it's about what they love behind it. And it was that sweet American flag, red, white, and blue, Old Glory, adorned by the 6 branches flags and the Commander-in-Chief, the seal of the President of the United States, and also the Pentagon flag on hand for that auditorium with a room that does not need any introduction. Completely impressive individuals and truly the most glorious among us who selflessly put on that uniform for many countless years, adorned with medals and honors, and people who know a thing or two about warfare and meritocracy and being prepared, having readiness and the warrior ethos that is needed in a world that could be so unpredictable at times. Now, President Trump having some fun regarding this looming lockdown after meeting with Democrats just yesterday. I can't believe that Hakeem Jeffries put on a sombrero. If we could play cut 1, Mr. Producer.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
It is Taco Tuesday, so I might enjoy that tonight. Thank you to Democrat leadership. It's all fun and games sometimes, but there's a serious component to this. People are actually not going to get a paycheck. Is that what the Democrats want? Do they really want to not fund ICE agents? Do they want an open border? Do they want men and women's sports? That's really the question. That's a question I have for people like Governor J.B. Pritzker and Governor Newsom of California. Do you really believe that harboring illegal aliens and breaking the federal law is the right way to do things? Do you really believe that pushing out common sense reporters like William J. Kelly in Chicago and not allowing them to go to your press conferences, do you really believe that's American? Do you believe that calling people who disagree with you fascists is the correct way to go? Do you really believe that endangering our ICE agents who are putting themselves on the line, when if you look at any of these videos, whether it's local media in Chicago to those who are paid agitators getting in the way of those just simply trying to do their jobs to protect the homeland, is that what you want for this country? I mean, honestly, it's a very, I think, fair question. But at least we have a vice president, a House Speaker, a Senate Majority Leader truly focused on negotiating with all sides in order to keep the government open to fund these very vital services. And we have cut 5 as well of the vice president coming out of the West Wing just yesterday to really analyze the situation and to reiterate that Republicans are willing to work with Democrats in order to keep the government open.
Good afternoon, everybody. We just had a very frank conversation with the Senate and House Democratic leadership. Look, the principle at stake here is very simple. We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about health care policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it. If you look at what Chuck Schumer has said in the past consistently, it's whatever our disagreements are, let's negotiate with them. Let's talk about them. Let's figure out a bipartisan solution, but you don't shut the government down. In other words, you don't put a gun to the American people's head and say, unless you do exactly what Senate and House Democrats want you to do, we're going to shut down your government. That's exactly what they're proposing out there. Now, we have to remember, they're very frustrated. They say that they're very frustrated about the fact that this negotiation has not taken place until today. But if you look at the original thing they did with this negotiation, it was a $1.5 trillion spending package, basically saying to the American people, we want to give massive amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care while Americans are struggling to pay their health care bills. That was their initial foray into this negotiation. We thought it was absurd. We told them it was absurd, and now they come in here saying that if you don't give us everything that we want, we're going to shut down the government. We think that's preposterous. We think it's totally unacceptable, and we think the American people are going to suffer because these guys won't do the right thing. Now, I want to make one final point here. You will hear a lot from Senate Democrats, from House Democrats about the fact that American health care policy is broken. Well, we know that American health care policy is broken. We've been trying to fix it for the 8 months that we've been in office, but every single thing that they accuse about being broken about American health care is policy the Democrats have supported for the past decade. So if they want to talk about how to fix American health care policy, let's do it. The Speaker would love to do it. The Senate Majority Leader would love to do it. Let's work on it together, but let's do it in the context of an open government that's providing essential services to the American people. That's all that we're proposing to do, and the fact that they refuse to do that shows how unreasonable their position is. I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing. I hope they change their mind, but we're going to see.
So the clock is ticking. We'll see what happens here, but really the hang-up, $1.5 trillion that the Democrats want to fund illegal aliens. Your hard-earned Medicaid and Medicare, all going to those who did not pay anything into the system. It does not seem fair. And this MAGA movement is really the big tent solution to dealing with far-left policies. My question is, why do they want to go down a road of more bankruptcy, more heartache, and hurting countless families throughout this country? Thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. The 6-piece towel set sale is back in stock. It usually goes for $70, 70, cutting that almost in half to $39.98. Very limited quantity. You know this goes fast at mypillow.com/RSBN. Made here in America in the beautiful state of Minnesota. Call today. Do not delay. It's 800-836-7566. Support Mr. Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. He is the purveyor of free speech. He is a defender of election integrity, and heck, he might even run for governor of Minnesota. How great would that be? It's Mike Lindell. Thank you for your support, sir, and thank you for mypillow.com/RSBN. 2,000 products to choose from at that fine website. If you like what you see with Right Side Broadcasting Network, with the live desk, with original programming, and just about everything in between to bring you unbridled access to your government, the one you put into place on November 5th of last year. Can you believe it's almost October? I thought last year flew by, and then this year doing just the same. Support us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate. You may text RSBN to 801-801. We also have a big address, the biggest address, if you were to ask some, at 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. That's Auburn, Alabama, 36830. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for your financial support, because this is the new age, a golden age, in fact, of new media, of voices that are so-called alternative. I like to just say common sense, that bring it to you as it is, willing to talk to everyone, also on the correct side of history, the right side of history. Right Side Broadcasting Network, bringing you unbridled access. We don't edit the speeches. We don't edit press conferences. We don't toss it back to me. I talk enough as it is. We want to bring you your access to President Trump, to Vice President Vance, and the 119th Congress, and stories not only within the federal city, but outside of the Beltway, perhaps even in your neck of the woods. So you can write in as well. We read everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. Feedback at rsbn.tv. That's feedback at rsbn.tv. It's 11:37 on the East Coast, 8:37 on the Golden Coast out west. Thank you for tuning into Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely. We are awaiting President Trump to make an announcement. In the meantime, let's play clips 2 and 8 if we can, Mr. Producer, back to back. In case you missed President Trump meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just yesterday at the White House, having a trilateral call with the leaders of Qatar and the Prime Minister, specifically regarding the attacks in Doha to eliminate Hamas leadership. In turn, though, that did take the life of a Qatari serviceman, and dialogue happening through President Trump. So an important moment for peace and a proposal in Gaza that we are awaiting to see that clock ticking as well, not only with the government shutdown looming, but also with potential peace in the Middle East, the Abraham Accords 2.0. We'll see if we can reach that here in a very robust and interesting plan presented by the United States and Israel in regards to ending this conflict started by Hamas back on October 7th of 2023. We have that playback for you now.
Ready, face, forward, march. I hope so.
I am. I'm very confident. So this is a big, big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization. Things that have been going on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. We're going to, at least we're at a minimum very, very close, and I think we're beyond very close. And I want to thank Bibi for really getting in there and doing a job. We've worked well together, as we have with many other countries, both of us, with many other countries, which is the only way this whole situation gets solved. And I'm not just talking about Gaza. Gaza is one thing, but we're talking about much beyond Gaza. The whole deal, everything getting solved. It's called peace in the Middle East. So today is a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a
part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East. And let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. So this is far more than anybody expected, but the level of support that I've had from the nations in the Middle East and surrounding Israel and neighbors of Israel has been incredible, incredible. Every single one of them.
Truly an incredible step forward for peace in the region, and we pray for that as ideally all of the hostages come home. In a sad situation for countless families who have suffered so much over the course of these last 2 years, almost the 2-year date next week of the attack on innocent people simply going to a concert. It's life is a gift, and I think we've been reminded in the last few years, the last few weeks, just how precious and how fragile it can be. As we pray for peace, we pray for our president, we pray for the world, and peace through strength being displayed not only yesterday with that bilateral meeting, but today at Marine Base Quantico. Let's take a quick commercial break. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network as President Trump to make an announcement live from the White House. I'm Robert McNeely. We'll see you back on the other side.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front-row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, only $29.88. Once they're gone for good. How about our My Towels? They're finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time and the only time ever, get our limited edition premium My Pillows. They're made with Giza cotton and designer gusset. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get the best offers ever. Quantities are extremely limited, so order now.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. There's big news out of Florida. Last week, the state just announced a $60 million investment into cancer research. What makes the difference is they're focusing on affordable, life-saving medications. In fact, proven medications like ivermectin and hydrochloroquine, which has been prescribed for over 40 years and even won a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, the problem is Big Pharma doesn't like to talk about it when there's no big profit in the generics and in that system. That's where All Family Pharmacy comes in. They're the leading asset of online pharmacies. Again, flu season prep, so important in addition to all of these studies on cancer trials. You have the right to try, as President Trump made clear in the first term, and as Health and Human Services seeks to rediscover these therapies and these theories that were written about years ago in many cases. Things like getting enough sunlight, to a good diet, to working out, heck, even going to your place of worship. It reduces stress. It's a good thing for your overall health. But get the flu season prep immediately with Tamiflu, antibiotics, hydrochloroquine, immune support. This allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, they've been providing ivermectin and other essential medications for years now. And when you have access to the right medications, it makes all the difference. Scan the QR code there for 10% off. It's RSBN 10, RSBN 10, 10% off, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's no hassle, no insurance, no problem, no red tape, and no bureaucracy. Gosh, we have enough of it in our lives to begin with. Just life-saving medications that are affordable, that come right to your doorstep. Of course, you need a pharmaceutical note, but give them a call today or just simply visit their website and talk to a person on the other side who simply is a patriot, doctor, pharmacist, and nurses that care about the future of your health. Again, code RSBN 10, 10% off now. Scan the QR code for flu season prep, all provided by allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN as we welcome in the fall baseball and the October Classic right around the corner. Just wrapping up the Ryder Cup and all things football this weekend. President Trump treating American politics like it is the ninth inning and he is the last at bat. And who else would she want at bat other than Donald John Trump, the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, as he is about to make an announcement from the White House. We will take that there live to you as we break down the news of the day, from a looming government shutdown to potential peace in the Middle East and the use, again, of tariffs, the latest being announced with furniture in North Carolina. North Carolina once being the biggest exporter of American-made furniture. I mean, even growing up, I had that beautiful Ethan Allen set. How often can you find it now? You're getting junk all the way from China. And in order to make North Carolina, which has completely lost its furniture business to China and other countries, mind you, I remember President Trump talking about this on the campaign trail within the Tar Heel State. I will be imposing substantial tariffs on any country that does not make its furniture in the United States. Details to follow. So we'll watch that story signed by the president himself on Truth Social. Also, the movie-making business, which has greatly benefited places like Atlanta, Georgia, and the whole of the Peach State, to Chicago, Illinois, to Toronto, Canada, with the tax breaks that California refuses to offer the movie industry. But President Trump stating that our movie-making business has been stolen from the United States of America by other countries, just like stealing candy from a baby. California, with its weak and incompetent governor, has been particularly hit hard. Therefore, in order to solve this long-time, never-ending problem, I will be imposing a 100% tariff on any and all movies that are made outside of the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Again, signed by the president, and when he signs President DJT, that is him right there on the other end. We know the great Dan Scavino, recently engaged to Erin Elmore. Again, congratulations and best wishes to a MAGA couple unlike any other, doing it right there outside of the Oval Office. I mean, come on, Dan. You make every other guy look like he's weak sauce when you get a venue like that. I mean, what an engagement for the ages. But Dan also being the chief with social media and with President Trump since he was a teenager, almost another son to President Trump. Imagine starting your career as a caddy. A great job, by the way, because you learn a lot not only about golf, but about life, and then you end up at the White House. It's an all-American story, as President Trump will make an announcement right there from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, moments away. So stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And these Democrats, they have a way of really being hypocritical when it comes to this government shutdown. We can actually, let's toss it there now, the White House and President Trump.
Very big announcements. Left the military, there was something, generals, admirals, all the top brass, and that was a great morning. And this is other fantastic news for you, because it's going to be a lowering of medical prices, drug prices, like in the history of our country has never happened before. It's favored nations, if you know what that means, but we'll talk about it. Today, I'm thrilled to announce that one of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers and one of the best anywhere in the world, Pfizer, has agreed to offer countless prescription medications at major discounts in the United States, a result of the most favored nation drug pricing order that we established earlier this year. As you know, the
The United States was paying sometimes 10 times more than other countries for drugs, and a lot of excuses were made for that, but it went on for many years, many years, decades, and it's not going on any longer. We're going to be paying the lowest price now. We're going to be paying whatever the lowest price is. Favored nations. This will save American taxpayers and consumers hundreds of millions of dollars a year. I want to thank Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla, who is one of the most respected people in the industry and in business generally. I will say that, Albert, for joining us today, along with Secretary, as you know, we've got a number of secretaries. Secretary, is Lutnick behind me, I hope? Where's Lutnick?
He's over here, right over here to the right.
You can get over here. I'm looking for Lutnick, our great Secretary of Commerce. Good, I'm glad you're here. You would have been in trouble. Howard Lutnick, great. Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., CMS Administrator, Mehmet Oz, Medicare Administrator Chris Klomp, and the FDA Commissioner Marty McCary, and I just want to thank them all. They've been working hard on many things. I think this is one of the biggest medical announcements that this office has ever made, because we're talking about price reductions, as you'll see in a couple of minutes, that are incredible. For many years, Americans have paid the highest prices anywhere in the world for prescription drugs. They paid far more, 10 times, 13 times, 15 times more than other countries for the exact same product. A major reason is that the American consumers have been subsidizing research and development costs for the entire planet. They put all of that on us, and yet they were the beneficiaries too. So it's being changed as of today. The United States had just 4% of the world's population and consumers, only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the United States. So think of that. We have 4% of the market, 13% of prescription drugs, and yet, Albert, I didn't know you were that violent. I'm surprised you're agreeing to this.
I'm getting better.
No, he's doing the right thing. Thank you. And yet they make 75% of their profits from the American customers, so it's something. That's why I signed an executive order combating this practice, and we signed it very happily a little while ago. Today, Pfizer is committing, as will other drug companies as we go through the weeks, but Pfizer is truly one of the biggest in the world and one of the greatest in the world. Today, Pfizer is committing to offer all of their prescription medications to Medicaid, and it will be at the most favored nation's prices. It's going to have a huge impact on bringing Medicaid costs down like nothing else. I told you that in my first term, I was so proud of the fact that for the first time in 28 years, drug prices came down. And I had a news conference and I explained it was 0.1%, but it was down. And here we're talking about, in one case, over 1,000%. This is a critical step forward to our work and to improve health care, and hardworking, low-income Americans, especially low-income Americans, will be helped so greatly. In addition, Pfizer is agreeing to provide some of their most popular current medications to all consumers at heavily discounted prices of anywhere between 50 and even 100%. And that's off the price. And in some cases, even more than that. These drugs will be available for direct purchase online at a website operated by the federal government. We're also announcing that moving forward, all new medications introduced by Pfizer to the American market will be sold at the reduced most favored nation costs. So we'll be paying essentially what other countries are paying, who have been much lower for many years. Furthermore, Pfizer will invest $70 billion to reshore domestic manufacturing facilities. In other words, they're going to bring a lot of their facilities to make their drugs and make what they make, their product. They're going to make it in the United States. I appreciate that $70 billion investment and fund research and development right here in America. We're working with other major pharmaceutical companies to secure similar agreements. Everyone understands that the status quo where Americans pay more for drugs, prescription drugs, and they pay more than foreign countries who take advantage of us in many other ways, although not so many anymore. I think we've pretty well got that stopped, right? I think so. We've stopped that, but they took advantage of a lot of other precedents, that I can tell you. But we're making this pay to be very unacceptable, what they've done in the past. That's why my administration has also taken historic action to investigate the unfair and discriminatory trade practices of other countries that extort our pharmaceutical makers to shift costs onto the American consumer. They say, no, give us a price, a very low price, and just charge the American consumer, charge it to the U.S. The United States is done subsidizing the health care of the rest of the world. It's a big thing. I can't tell you how big this is. And I was all set to go on it first term, but then you had the COVID, and we had to focus on that. But I said, I want to get back here because you're talking about 14, 15, 1,600% reductions in some cases. But by taking this bold step, we're ending the era of global price gouging at the expense of American families, and we're making America healthy again, which is our little theme for the people behind me. And I want to just ask Secretary Kennedy to come up, and we'll start, and we'll go through it with Oz and Klomp and Bourla and McCary, and we'll go through it, and if you have any questions. But this is a really big announcement. This is something that most people said was not doable. And other countries are going along because we told them that if you don't go along, they didn't have to go along. But if they didn't go along, we were going to put extra tariffs on those countries, and we were going to charge them the amount of money that they should be paying for the reduction in costs. So I think we had a pretty good negotiating position. So, Bobby, I'd like you to speak about this, and what a great job, and thank you very much.
Dr. Heidi Overton, who played key roles in this negotiation and helped make this happen. And also Inma Hernandez, who's not up here, but John Brooke and Chris Klomp, who were the people who were negotiating, in some cases, I think including last night, 24 hours without any sleep. This would not have happened without President Trump's leadership. I told my son last night, we're all under secrecy about this, but I told my son late last night, a 27-year-old son, Connor, who's a very liberal Democrat. And I told him this was happening, and he just paused for a minute, and he said, "Thank you, Dad, I'm so proud of you." Because this is something Democrats have wanted for 20 years. Republicans have wanted for 20 years. Everybody said they're going to do it. Nobody has even taken a step towards doing it. And the reason was because it was such a daunting task. And, even all of the negotiators, you see, I also want to thank Howard Lutnick. This would not have happened without him. But even all of the negotiators here and all the people on at HHS and at the White House team, all we could see was all the reasons that this couldn't happen. Everybody had tried. Nobody could make it happen. And it was President Trump alone who, with his doggedness, his persistence, he saw this clearly in a way that none of us other, in its most simplest terms. Why are we spending more on this country than any other country? Why are we spending 75% of the revenues that come to the pharmaceutical industry? We're doing all the research, and everybody else is riding on our slipstream. And President Trump, I would say, harangued and harassed us to make this happen. I was getting calls 12 o'clock at night. "Oh, are you asleep? And you got to get MFN done." And at one point, Dr. Oz told me, "I can't take the president's calls anymore." I have a lot of reasons. My wife has a lot of reasons to say to me about different things that happen in my life. Doesn't that give you anxiety? And I say, I don't get anxiety. This gave me anxiety. Oh, thank you, President Trump. It would not have happened without your leadership. This is real leadership. It's a president who has a vision and makes that vision happen. And any other president of the United States who could have done this in our history, I'm very grateful to you. This is an extraordinary benefit to the American people. Thank you for your vision, President Trump, your bold action, your unwavering commitment to health and well-being of the American people. Never has a president stood up so bravely for the American people with respect to health care. And by the way, I forgot to thank Albert Burla. Albert and I have had a long history of antipathy and antagonism toward each other. But I have to say his leadership in this took tremendous courage. And he really created a template for corporate responsibility, for putting public health ahead of his individual interests. So I'm very, very grateful to you for that, Albert. Under the leadership of President Trump, the U.S. government is now acting as a tough negotiator on behalf of the American people. Today is about fairness, it's about equality, it's about giving hope to those who are trying to stay healthy, who are managing illness and or fighting for their lives. We refuse to make the most vulnerable citizens continue to pay an unthinkable price for the world's pharmaceutical breakthroughs, which we pay for. This policy is a shield for the chronically ill who have carried the burden of high drug costs for far too long. It's a signal to every American family that we're finally putting their health and financial security first. And it sets a new standard, one that says we won't write blank checks to the drug industry any longer. No family should ever be forced to choose between filling a prescription and putting food on the table. Americans should not be gouged paying 300 or 400 or 1,000% more than people in other countries for the exact same drug, many times manufactured in the same factory in New Jersey and sold in Great Britain for 1/10 the price that it's being sold for here. This week, and I was with some friends up in Martha's Vineyard, and an old friend, one of my oldest friends, his wife and daughter have a chronic disease. And that chronic disease last year cost $150,000 to treat. And the mother had to choose whether she was going to take that money and spend it on her or her daughter. And she spent it on her daughter. So she had to make that choice. It's a choice that no mother should have to make. We did a roundtable recently on drug prices. One patient spent more than $180,000 on one drug. One cashed in all of her savings and worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. One almost quit her job and moved to Germany to get the drug cheaper. Some looked at getting the drug on unsafe secondary markets because they could not afford it through the legitimate markets. Today, we begin to right that ship. For the mother trying to help her child get better, for a grandmother at the pharmacy counter, and for millions of Americans who want to restore their health. Today is about another promise made by President Trump and another promise kept by President Trump to the American people. And it's only just the beginning. This is all thanks to your unwavering leadership, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There is a fine line between vision and hallucination. People have to follow you for it to be a vision. And President Trump, you made a lot of people following you, an idea that most people thought was not possible, even remotely. And when we I'll speak to some of the people who are involved in this process, because it was incredible effort that gives me great pride to serve in this administration. And the fact that it did not leak is also an issue of pride for us, because these were tough challenges. And Albert Bourla looks very calm up here and cat-like, but he is ferocious when you get him in a negotiating room. This is true for all the pharmaceutical companies that we are negotiating with. And Secretary Kennedy, my son Oliver, who I told about this deal as I was walking over here, is a Republican. And you know what he said? Thank you for making us proud. Because it's not just a Democratic problem, it's a Republican problem. This has not happened before. And it took a crusader like President Trump, with the support of Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Lutnick, I see the Vice President's here as well, just unwavering, dogged pursuit of change. And now I have to admit that I know the President has me on speed dial, and most of the time when he would call me, as Secretary Kennedy alluded to, it was about MFN, and he always had reasons why we needed to go faster and why people were being hurt today, because we're allowing the kinds of pricing that had been tolerated for so many decades in America. The time of the day didn't matter, the day of the week didn't matter, and that's how the president was functioning. This was such an important part of what he saw as his legacy, which is why it brings such pride to all of us up here and many others to deliver it. And the laser focus that the president had on this which he shared with me the day that I was nominated, that he nominated me for this position, and has reminded me frequently since, made it a top priority for us as well at CMS. Now, to do this, you have to have tactics, not just vision, but tactics. And the first tactic the president shared was to introduce me to Albert Bourla. He took us to dinner with Secretary Kennedy, and he argued, and he's a great deal maker, as you know, that if you're going to make a deal of this scope, of this nature, you need trust. So the president lit the kindling. He got the embers going, but he needed us to nurture that beginning of a fire so they would blow ever, certainly in the space of pharmaceuticals. I gained to respect Albert, and I'll tell you why in particular. It was because he recognized the dangerous problems facing so many Americans, that they had to choose between taking medications prescribed by their doctor that could be life-saving or shopping at the grocery store, paying for their kids a fundamentally important need that would be squeezed out because they couldn't compromise on drugs, or often worse, they compromise on the drugs. 1/3 of all prescriptions are not filled in the pharmacy because of this. We talked through the winter. We talked through the spring. We talked through the summer. And we got nowhere. We stalled. The industry is powerful. They're important. They have smart people. There's no reason for them to give the numbers that the president is articulating today. And you see these numbers on the charts around us. These are massive wins for the American people. But the president in July demanded, after the executive order, that manufacturers make a firm commitment and to lower prices or else. And it sent shockwaves through the industry. It got the ball rolling again. Our talks with Albert heated up, but it wasn't until, if you want an inside story, it wasn't until last week that we made a major breakthrough. And our hardworking team embarked on a remarkable story that I think books will be written about, 24/7, nonstop, with industry, with Albert, with his great team at Pfizer. And with this partnership, we began to deal with the fundamental challenges we have, which is protecting medical advances for the future while at the same time securing the prices Americans want today. We're going to continue to stimulate and strengthen innovation. That's what a great country does, and we are a great country with a great leader. We're going to protect the U.S. hegemony in R&D. We dominate the planet in discovering cures for illnesses. All those orphan ailments, all those remarkable advances, they come from research labs here with companies like Pfizer and other great ones in the pharmaceutical space. We're going to lead in the life sciences. We're going to lead in ideas. And we're going to make sure that we do all that while we're being fair to the American people, especially our most vulnerable. We're going to finally deliver on the fair drug prices that President Trump has been speaking about for 2 terms. We're going to celebrate this historic day, I predict, this historic day in the medical field for generations to come. The heroic negotiators that I do feel compelled to mention, and Secretary Kennedy kindly also mentioned their names. Some of them can't be in here because they're busy negotiating future deals. Inma Hernandez-Delso, John Brooks, who's a deputy administrator of mine, Theo Merkel, who is in the back and tall and hard to miss with DPC, and Corey Ensslin with the same group, did a spectacular job, and Don Dempsey at OMB. Just wonderful human beings, worked tirelessly to get this done. We were able to secure this first MFN deal, and the president touched on this, but we have much more to come. You'll be hearing breaking news from the president for the rest of the fall. And Mr. President, these brilliant minds are here because of you. Now, I don't want to just pay homage to this. I want to actually speak this a little bit. The passion to protect the American people brings top-tier Americans into the government. We've created a powerful administration with the president's leadership, an administration of winners, of people who get things done. They see the generational opportunity to fix the biggest problems our nation faces. And the person who led this negotiation, Chris Klump, embodies this seal. Now, Chris Klump came to visit Secretary Kennedy and I the very first day we were looking for staff to try to bring in the government. And neither of us really had an idea of how challenging this might be. And he came to the interview, and we knew that he had built a business that was worth several $100 million. And the secretary, very poker-faced as he tends to be, looked at him and said, "Are you willing to give it all up and move your family to Washington?" A young family, 4 young children, beautiful wife. "Are you willing to come across the country and serve our nation, serve this president to ensure vital programs like Medicare, which he runs, will keep our seniors healthy for years to come?" He gave it all up, like so many have in this administration, passionate to follow the president's lead and serve under Secretary Kennedy. And for those of you at home who are watching, and I hope there are quite a few, I think this shows just how cool a place it is to work, is in this government. And I take great pride in handing the ball to Chris. Chris, tell the American people what they have won thanks to your passionate ability to deliver on President Trump's promise.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Mr. President. You have enabled something that as recently as last night, nearly everyone has said was impossible. And Secretary Kennedy and Administrator Oz, thank you for having trust in us as a negotiating team to drive this forward on behalf of the American people. It is an absolute honor and privilege. And Mr. Borla, to you and to the team at Pfizer, you have taken a step that I think few appreciate, requires a level of courage to change something that for decades administrations have tried. And there was no incentive rationally for you to do, and yet you've done it because you recognize the opportunity to align your economic interest with the social interest of the American people, and we are grateful. Today is historic, as has been discussed. This is a major win in the battle for affordable health care and affordable drugs. As the President said, on average, we pay nearly 3 times what the rest of the wealthy world pays for branded pharmaceuticals. And yet we drive more than 50% of global R&D, 50% of revenues, nearly 70% of profits. It's unjust. It's morally unjust. And when this happens, we stifle innovation and we limit access for the most vulnerable people across the planet and in America who need these medications. And so the President directed us to make deals. That's what he does, and it's what we do. And all great deals, and this is a great deal, are rooted in principles. And this deal was rooted in the principle of fairness. Now, the President could have directed us to go to the poorest country on the planet and find the cheapest price for every single drug and bring that back to the United States and use the might of the government to insist that that's the price we pay. And that might have worked, actually, for just a little bit. But very quickly, it would have utterly destroyed innovation in pharmaceuticals. It would have destroyed American primacy in building life-saving medications. There are nearly 20,000 known diseases on the planet. We have treatments or cures for far fewer than 10% of them. So that would have been a bad strategy, and it would have limited access to those who need those medications the most. But he didn't call for that. He didn't call for 50% lower than the lowest price on the planet. What he called for was fairness. And that's a powerful principle, because we all grow up wanting to be on the right side of fair. And it allowed us to do what has not been done before, which is to call on manufacturers and ask them to be fair, and allows us to go to countries and ask them to pay their fair share in the battle against global disease. And that is the unlock for this great deal. Now, it's my privilege to talk just for a few minutes about the details of the deal. First, let's start with the definition of MFN. What do we mean by that? This is not made-up list prices that have often been quoted in prior administrations, stuffed with fees and rebates. We're talking about we start at net prices, after fees, after rebates, the prices people actually pay here, the prices people actually pay in other wealthy countries. We then index to a basket of countries, wealthy countries, across the world. And we go drug by drug, and we look for the lowest price. And that becomes the starting point for what an MFN price is in the United States. And then we've built this principles of fairness on 5 key pillars, as we've talked about. Number 1, as has been discussed, direct access for patients at Trump RX, which is a site soon to be launched, available often at full MFN and always at lower prices than currently available. This is bypassing middlemen. It increases transparency. In many instances, prices are 80% lower than they are today. No more Canadian detours to purchase drugs more inexpensively at our neighbor. You do it from home. You do it a click. This is American ingenuity outsmarting the system. Number 2, the President was very clear to us and directed us to ensure that we secured the lowest prices for the most vulnerable Americans, those who are served by Medicaid. So we focused there first. So Pfizer will be putting virtually all of its portfolio of drugs at MFN prices available to Medicaid in the near future. This safeguards the program. This ensures that this program lives as a lifeline without undue burden on the taxpayer for those who need it most, for our vulnerable Americans whom we are charged morally to care for. The third principle is about future-proofing fairness. This is the idea that Pfizer has committed, as are other manufacturers, that they will not launch a new drug for commercial, Medicare, Medicaid, or cash pay markets at a price that is higher than the other wealthy world. Now, they are free to price their drugs wherever they want. These are not price caps. These are not price controls. They can price however they'd like. We're simply asking them, and they are committing not to undercut us in other countries. This is an essential principle. This allows us to retrain other countries to appropriately value innovation for their citizens, to appropriately understand what fair share means, to contribute global R&D. This allows us not to compromise access for those who need it most. And this is a powerful commitment. The fourth principle is around shared savings. As our commerce colleagues and as our U.S. trade representative colleagues succeed in encouraging other countries to pay more for existing medications, a portion of that will go to fund additional R&D. And a portion of that will repatriate back to the United States to offset prices, lower prices further for Americans on those existing drugs. And the fifth principle, as discussed, with hats off to Secretary Lutnick and Ambassador Jameson Greer from U.S. Trade, is about Pfizer committing to onshore 100% of the value of all imports that it currently imports to the United States, thus ensuring that we seal our great American resurgence. If you're watching this right now and you have been looking for evidence that this is a president who knows and cares about you, who is fighting for you, who is fighting for every American, this is Exhibit A. This is not an empty promise. It's not platitudes. It's not lacking a plan. These are hard contracts with teeth, lowering prices now that we will all feel. These are the most significant, historical, substantive, mathematically quantified price reductions in the history of our country in modern-day pharmaceuticals. I cannot thank you enough for your leadership in enabling this to happen. It is an absolute pleasure. The President has showed us that the impossible can be achieved, and that is what's happened today. God bless America. With that in mind, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer.
Mr. President, what an honor to be here today in this office to announce a landmark agreement. I think it's an historic day.
Is this the coolest office? He has a beautiful office, but the Oval is the coolest, right? What do you think?
I think by far. And I have seen other presidents' offices. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's good office.
Yeah. So it's an historic day because I think today we are turning the tide and we are reversing an unfair situation. For years, other rich nations refused to pay the fair share for the medical innovation. And as a result, Americans had to assume disproportional cost on their shoulders. This situation, we all knew, is not sustainable. This situation is a situation that many wanted to change, but no one could. This is changing today with this agreement. In July, the President sent to me and other heads of pharmaceutical companies a letter. And over there, he articulated 4 specific requests. These requests, it was obvious to us, were designed to lower drug cost in the America in different ways, each one of them. And altogether, holistically, to have synergistic effect in the impact that that will have in the U.S. healthcare cost and patients. With this deal that we signed today, we satisfied all 4 of President's requests, all 4. The big winner of this deal clearly will be the American patient. There is no doubt about it. They are the ones that will see significant impact in their ability to buy medicines. But I would argue that it is not the only winner. I think who else is a winner here? It is American innovation and American economy. In our industry, we had 2 major overhangs that have substantially reduced our valuations and create concerns for us in our ability to invest. We are addressing both of them right now, and I will speak about them. The first one was the uncertainty of tariffs. Because the President is absolutely right. Tariffs is the most powerful tool to motivate behaviors, Mr. President, and clearly motivated ours, right? So, by this agreement that we did, we commit to onshore the production of our medicines that are consumed in the U.S. and are made outside the U.S. And for that, we are ready to unleash our investment portfolio in this country. And the President graciously gave us a 3 years grace period that we will not be subject to the 232 tariffs as long as, of course, we move the products here. That's one. The second overhang in our industry was this uncertainty. What will happen with the framework of pricing in the country? Because this uncertainty, it was what was holding people from investing in the pharmaceutical industry, which resulted in significant reduction of our multiples. Actually, our multiples are at historical low. Well, now we have clarity about what is the framework for the US pricing. Read the letter of President Trump, read the 4 points, and this is the framework. And we will abide to that, and going forward, this is how things will be priced in the US and abroad. We are ready to invest, as the President also mentioned, $70 billion in the next few years from Pfizer in manufacturing and research in America alone. I really think this is an historical moment because also I can put that behind us and focus on the things that I want to spend my time, cancer treatments, to bring better obesity medicines, to bring better vaccines, to bring things that people value. And thank you for allowing us to do that. I want to thank Secretary Kennedy. I want to thank Secretary Latnik. Your leadership helped us to pull that together. You are the mastermind of everything, and without the brilliant way that you designed the whole thing, we wouldn't be able to make it happen. But you were even more brilliant because you had someone in your team that he was the driving force behind everything. And I don't have words to thank you for your integrity. And it is what you have said. We created trust from day one. And that was the most important thing that allowed us to be able to pull very difficult negotiations. Of course, also I want to thank the US trade representative, who is also heavily engaged, and he's probably the first trade representative that I have seen that cares about our industry and cares to do something about unfair situations out there. But more than anyone else, Mr. President, I want to thank you, for your leadership and, frankly, for your friendship. Thank you.
Albert, thank you very much.
Great
job. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. President. The growth of drug spending, that is, the increase in drug pricing, is the fastest and biggest increasing area of healthcare spending. So today's announcement has incredible implications for healthcare spending in the United States. And today marks the beginning of the end of the Great American Ripoff. And it also marks the beginning and the end of a great American tragedy, something I've seen as a physician at the bedside. Patients getting spun up into a financial rage, doing GoFundMe campaigns online, sending repeat reminders, asking people to donate, getting their churches to pass the offering plate from pew to pew, Sunday after Sunday, to try to get enough money to pay for a drug in the United States, a drug that's 5 or 10 times more expensive than the same drug in France or Germany or the UK. People get spun up, and it's a tragedy. Having cancer is hard enough. Getting spun up into a financial rage in order to try to get the money to pay for treatment makes it so much harder. 37% of people who go through cancer care say in the end that the financial toxicity makes them want to avoid or delay care in the future. That is, they're done with it. They're done with the system. That's how toxic financial toxicity can be. And for what? For what? So the U.S. can finance the R&D of the world? Well, that ends today, thanks to President Trump. So we want to see R&D. We want to see American pharmaceutical companies thrive. We want to see pharmaceutical companies that do business and manufacture in the United States thrive. At the FDA, we're doing our part. If you're going to equalize your price to that of other wealthy countries, we're not talking about Zimbabwe. We're talking about Germany, France, UK, Japan, other wealthy countries, the OECD countries. If you equalize your price, then we're going to put your future applications at the front of the line. A voucher to get a review in weeks has a market street value of about $500 million because every day is money when it comes to getting a drug approved. And so if you meet one of the president's national priorities stated very clearly, moving manufacturing to the United States, meeting a large unmet public health need, or equalizing your prices. We're the largest purchasers of drugs. We deserve the best prices. And so we're going to do our part. And if a generic company makes their drug in the United States, that application is going to move to the front of the line as well. And if you're going to build a plant in the United States, our FDA inspectors will walk through that plant during the construction phase, something never done before, so that it's ready on day one. So thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. They said it couldn't be done, and here we are. Thank you.
Chris, you may want to go up and just show one of the boards about how quickly the prices come down. And these are small examples. We're going to have it over 1,000% in some cases. You'll see that during the week. But we just picked out 4 at random, and you see the kind of numbers. Bobby and maybe Albert, good.
We picked 4 examples, but I want to be totally clear. These are not the only 4 examples. And as the President mentioned, this is not the only agreement. It is the first. It's a historic agreement. There are many to come, and we're excited to talk about them. And that means hundreds and hundreds of drugs. We are not exaggerating when we talk about reductions of up to 80%. We give you 4 examples here. One for dermatitis. The new price at MFN results in 80% reduction to what's available today. One in postmenopausal osteoporosis, 85%. Migraines that affect so many Americans, 50% reductions. Rheumatoid arthritis, something my own mother struggled with, 40% reductions. This is about access. This is about ensuring Americans have access to life-saving medications. These are real prices. These are net prices. They're not made up. They're not funny numbers.
Thank you very much. Great job you've done. Everybody here has been incredible. We've been standing here talking about the Make America Healthy Again a lot lately, and I think our meeting the other day was excellent on a thing called Tylenol. That was a very important meeting. I think that was a very important meeting. And this, in terms of pricing, it's going to be great for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. It's going to be great for everything because your medicine costs are coming way down. We have some examples that I think we'll be able to show you next week of over 1,000% in some cases, where a pill that cost $10 in London was costing $130 in New York and various other places within the United States. And the same thing with Canada. People would go to Canada, they'd go to Mexico, they'd go to other places to buy drugs. They don't have to do that anymore. So we have favored nations. So that's what we have. And it's one of the biggest days I think anybody will ever have. We're talking about massive numbers, and the numbers are going to get even better with a little time. And I will say, Albert, I think that the drug companies are going to be the same. You're going to, the world, we're really competing against the world, so they have more people. So we'll come down a lot, and the world's going to go up a little bit. And the end result is you're going to, I think, do the same business pretty much. Maybe you'll figure a way to do more business, I think, knowing you. But I think the drug companies, we're going to come down a lot, the U.S. The U.S. will come down a lot. But the world, many more people, is going to go up a little bit. And it equalized, and it's a great tribute. And I want to thank everybody up here. J.D., thank you for all of your help, too. And Howard, great, really great job. Thank you all very much. Do you have any questions? How about we focus on this? It's so big, let's focus on this.
Can you please give us a timeline?
Mr. President, first of all, this kind of goes along with your America First campaign promises, right? Lowering health care costs. On a day that it seems like we're going into a government shutdown led by Democrats on the premise of providing health benefits to illegals, this seems to, your move here is a stark contrast to that. Could the same principles that you did today apply to health insurance, to maybe lower the cost of health insurance? Many Americans are kind of struggling
and
with that.
We're working on just that, little different group, but we're working on just that. It could, I don't know to this extent. We have a pill, one pill in particular we're going to show you next week. It sells for $10 in other countries and $137 in the U.S., and that's coming down now to probably $15 or $18. They'll go up to 18. I think that's pretty much right, Albert. It's not you, but they'll go up to 18, and we'll come down from 135 or whatever down to 18. I mean, that's a massive number. Remember, I was the one that held a news conference because I lowered drug prices by 1/4%. I think it was 1/8 of 1%, but it was the only one in 28 years that brought drug prices down for the year. But it was a very small number. Now we're talking about, you're going to see one over 1,000%. Look at these numbers. So, and this has a big impact, even on the discussion that we'll have with Chuck Schumer, who was here yesterday, along with a very nice gentleman who I didn't really know. You know who I'm talking about. The two of them came, and we had a good discussion, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens. But this has a huge impact on that because these numbers are going to bring Medicaid. We talk about Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. Obamacare is not good. It's there, but relative to other health care programs, it's in the lower 20%. It's not good. And I asked the Democrat representatives, what do you think about coming up with a better health care? This actually allows you to do that because the cost of prescription medicine is a very big, more than 50% the cost of what we're talking about. So we might be able to do something like that. This is one of the biggest news conferences from a medical standpoint that I think has ever been had by any administration. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I'm curious, where are the other companies other than Pfizer? Are you expecting them to come?
They're all with us. And I was honored to have Albert be the first. He's done a fantastic job with, as you know, with the COVID. He did a fantastic job with a lot of things. He's a leader, and Pfizer is right at the top. You know, it's there. Eli Lilly has been fantastic also, my friend. And they're all coming in over the next week. We're making deals with all of them. And I said, if we don't make a deal, then we're going to tariff them an extra 5, 6, 7, 8%, whatever the difference is, and we'll take it that way. So we took away the advantage by the fact that we have tariffs. We took away the advantage that they would have of just saying no, and we couldn't do anything about it. If they do that, what we do is we'd put a tariff on them of an equivalent amount, and we take it that way. And nobody wants to play that game. So they're going to be, they're all going to be good. We didn't have to mention that to Albert. Well, maybe I whispered it to him very slightly, you know. We had to give ourselves a little bit of an advantage. But the tariffs played a big role because they know that's what's going to happen.
You mentioned the tariff, the exemption of the 232s, but can you share a timeline for when we can expect the results of that 232 investigation?
Let Howard answer that question, please.
Sure. So while we're negotiating with these companies, we're going to let them play out and finish these negotiations because they are the most important thing to the American people. So we are standing by, helping, and working with them. But the driver of the 232 outcomes is our HHS team because, I mean, look what they've accomplished today. So we are on their side helping them, but that is the model that's going to drive.
And you have to understand, Albert's spending $70 billion that he wouldn't be spending because of the tariffs, let's say, and other reasons. I think he liked the winner of November 5th, in all fairness, but because of the tariffs. And that wouldn't happen. He's not going to pay any tariffs because when he moves here, there are no tariffs. So he won't be paying tariffs. That's the beauty of it. If you move here, there are no tariffs. And we have over $17 trillion, Albert. Do you believe these numbers? So Biden had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have over $17 trillion for essentially 8 months. Pretty amazing.
When will prices come down, Mr. President? When can America?
They're going to start coming down. Drug prices? Well, they'll be starting immediately.
Mr. President, can you speak to what impact you think this reduction in drug prices will have on midterms coming up?
I think it's going to have a huge. I said, if we can pull this off before midterms, I've wanted to do it from the beginning, from my first day in first term. And we were doing so well. We had the greatest economy we've ever had. Everything was good. And then we're ready to do this, which is complex and big. It's a big change. But what happened is COVID came, and we focused on COVID. We focused on COVID very hard with Albert, with the other companies, with everybody. Regeneron was a great thing. You know, we did a lot of therapeutics that were fantastic. And so we focused on that. And I said, if I pull this off again, the first thing I'm going to do, and, you know, we've been working on this for 8 months. This is a very big deal. This is a big shock to the system. But it's not as much as I said. They're going to go up. The world is going to go up a little bit. We're going to come down a lot. But now it's fair.
Mr. President.
We're going to be paying the same thing. Yeah.
President Trump, in your first term, when you cut the price of insulin, Biden later came in and tried to steal credit for that. Do you worry that the Democrats are going to try to steal credit for these historic cuts?
I really appreciate your question, because I did. I cut the price of insulin down to $35. And the problem is with many of these things, in this case it's going to be pretty quick, but oftentimes you'll do something medically because of the process, and it won't be seen for 2 or 3 years. That happened also with, I could say 4 different things, but just if you talk about insulin, so it was 200, 300, 500, and you couldn't get it, and I got it down to 35. And I said, I hope I win the next election, because otherwise whoever wins is going to take credit for it. Well, what happened is we did win the election. We did great. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way from a practical standpoint. And Biden, when I saw him get up and take credit for the $35 and even less insulin, that was 1,000% lower than what it was just previous. Boy, I tell you, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I did the best I could to let him know we did it, because we want to be given credit. But we are the ones that got insulin down to that number. And you're right, they tried to take credit for it. They had nothing to do. In fact, they didn't even know what happened. All of a sudden, the insulin price kicked in at $35. And they asked Biden about it. He had no idea what the hell they were talking about. But after they explained, and they didn't really explain to him because he was not capable really of understanding it. But when they went out and talked about it, they acted like it was a great feat by Biden. It had nothing to do with him. And it continues, and we'll get it down even further. But insulin was, people weren't taking it, I would imagine. They couldn't take it. God bless you, Bobby. I hope I didn't catch COVID just there.
Mr. President.
Have you have Paxlovid? What is it? Paxlovid. He's got Paxlovid.
Mr. President.
Give me a Paxlovid immediately.
Mr. President, you can...
While Nancy Pelosi is ignoring what you're doing for the American people, she's going after your administration for cutting taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens.
Who's doing that?
Nancy Pelosi. She went on NBC last night, dropped a bunch of F-bombs, told Republicans to go F themselves. Has she lost her mind?
We have done an unbelievable job medically. Just this, if you did nothing else, we've done a lot, like the insulin. But just this, nobody can ever catch this. This is the biggest price reduction times, maybe 10 times, 15 times, than has ever been given before. And this is going to have a huge impact. You know, as I said, Obamacare is not a good thing. It's been bad. And I'd like to make it better. I told them, I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of Democrats recently. I said, why don't we change it? We can make Obamacare much better. We could come up with a new system that would be much better, less expensive for the people and better. This is maybe the biggest breakthrough, because, you know, when you're talking about the prescription drugs, that's a big part of it. So we're going to look. This is prescription, but we're going to be looking at that. We could come up and through this whole thing, you know, because I don't know, we'll probably have a shutdown, because one of the things they want to do is they want to give incredible Medicare, the Cadillac Medicare, to illegal immigrants. And what that does is it keeps them coming into our country, and like they do in California. And no country can afford that. No country. And we have the border stopped up. We have it closed. We have nobody for 4 months. Zero people came in. That wasn't me. That's by the authorities, who happen to be liberally oriented. But just think of that. We have people offering health care to people all over the world that they can't afford to pay. And that's the Democrats. And what that does is it brings people into the country because they want to come in for the health care. But no country can afford it, and they can't afford it. So we cannot allow them to charge tremendous amounts of money for health care for people that aren't even citizens. And in many cases, they come in from prisons, jails, and mental institutions. And we can't let that happen. So we have a big fight over that. We have a fight over open borders. They still want open borders. We're having a fight over men and women's sports, if you believe it. You would have thought they would have learned that it's not a good issue. And we have a fight in transgender, as you know, transgender for everybody. And that, when you talk medically, that's a lot of money, too. That's a lot of, those operations are bad. So those things are also being discussed right now. I mean, can you imagine we're actually talking about open borders, and we now have a great border, and we have a great country. Our country was dead 1 year ago. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. Big difference. Yeah.
Mr. President, undocumented.
State of the Democrat Party when they have a 33% favorability rating on average in recent months, and they're willing to shut down the government over health care.
They are shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that. But they want to have illegal aliens come into our country and get massive health care at the cost to everybody else, and we don't have it. And that's I would say, the number one reason that they want to strike is to get illegal immigrants health care. And, Gavin Newsom wants that, too, in California, and it's destroying California. We can't have that. We're not going to let it happen.
Mr. President, undocumented immigrants.
Do you have a plan for dealing with drug companies that are responding to MFN only by raising prices overseas as opposed to lowering prices in the U.S.?
No, they're responding. I understand that question very well, but they're responding by lowering prices. They're helped by lowering prices. There's a price at which they can't sell, and they're helped by lowering prices. In the case of Albert and in the case of Eli Lilly, the fact is, our prices are coming down massively. You see, that's just a few of the basics, but they're coming down much more than that with many drugs, and over 1,000%. Think of that, over 1,000% reduction. And we'll show you that next week because we have some of them on the board next week where you have over 1,000% price reduction. No, what's going to happen is you're going to have the market will kick in. This way, the market kicks in. The other way, it was just basically it was just a form of control. You were stifling the market.
So following up on Brian's point, is a shutdown inevitable? And how would you describe the negotiations with Democrats yesterday? Are more meetings scheduled?
So nothing is inevitable, but I would say it's probably likely because they want to give health care to illegal immigrants, which will destroy health care for everybody else in our country. And I didn't see them bend even a little bit when I said we can't do that. Okay?
Mr. President.
Can I ask a question of Dr. Oz, Administrator Oz? If there is no deal reached on the Obamacare subsidies with the Democrats, is there anything that CMS can do to lower those, to mitigate the increases of those Obamacare subsidies?
Not really, but we have time. We have time till the end of the year to make the changes I know the president is evaluating, but we should have a clean, continuing resolution, get past this budget process as it has happened so many times, and allow the president and leadership some freedom to be able to put some good ideas in front of the legislative bodies.
Mr. President, undocumented immigrants.
We actually do have time for that.
They're not eligible for the health care subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their health care?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came in. Now, a lot of them have gone out. We have over 11,000 murderers. We got many of them out. Many of those people have been taken out of the country, brought back to where they came from. In some cases, put in prison because they're so dangerous. We don't want to take them out. We have to watch them. We don't want them coming back. But if you look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. right now, it is such a place. I just drove through it, and it's clean and nice and beautiful. And people are walking around, and they're not afraid of being mugged. We haven't had murders. We haven't had anything happen in a long time. It took us 12 days to make it very good. It took us 20 days to make it beautiful. And now we're going to Memphis. But I think we should always keep a presence here, because if we don't keep a presence, it's going to come back never like it was, because we got rid of 1,700 career criminals. You know what that is? One career criminal can give you a lousy reputation for danger, because they commit many crimes a day in some cases. But Washington, D.C. is an unbelievable example of what can happen. And now we're going, as you know, to Memphis, which was very similar to Washington, very dangerous. And we're there, and we're working along very well with the governor, the mayor. A lot of these Democrat mayors, you know, what they don't want to have us do well, because if we do well, it makes them look bad, and they shouldn't feel that way. If I were a Democrat and I was a governor or mayor, I'd be calling Trump. I'd say, get your troops over here, just help, because the mayor of Washington is getting a lot of credit for what we did, you know, a lot of credit. But the beauty is, isn't it nice, seriously, you walk down the street, you're not going to be mugged, you're not going to be hit. We had a meeting about 3-4 months ago, and I was saying to the media, how many of you people have been threatened or mugged or accosted during your walk to the White House? And they said, we don't walk to the White House anymore. But the answer was, remember, Brian, almost everybody's, look at this guy. They even attacked this big, strong guy, right? Didn't you get attacked?
Though, Mr. President,
did you? But, yeah, just take a look at the other guy, right? What happened to the other guy? I don't know. Those other guys are pretty tough. They're tough with a gun in their hand, right?
They are.
And, yeah, you were hit pretty hard. But almost everybody was. And now, nobody. Anybody been accosted in the last 3 weeks? If I would have said that 6 months ago, half the hands would have been raised out. No, we have a very safe city now. The country's going to be safe. We're doing one at a time, and we'll be going to Chicago. I told you this, sir. Union Pacific, head of the railroad. He knows this country very well. Started off as a very low-rung employee of the Union Pacific. He's now chairman. He came to me and he said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going down fast. They had 11 people killed over the last couple of weeks. 11 people killed, 48 shot. That's not a city. It's a war zone. There's no city in the world like that. And then we have to listen to this Pritzker get up. I know him well. They threw him out of his business, and the family threw him out of the business because he's a loser. But we have to listen to Pritzker get up. He should call me and say, get the troops in. You ever hear that? 11 people over a week and a half killed. And I think it's 48, when you add it up, 48 people shot. And then I have to listen to a governor say how nice it is. It's a wonderful experience. Now, what is a wonderful experience is D.C. People are eating in the restaurants. They just opened 2 new restaurants, which hasn't worked in years. And we had it pretty good 4 years ago. We were just getting ready to do this, but we did it right. And, you know, we have a big victory in the Supreme Court. It's called merit. And so that includes the military. Our soldiers, did you see what they look like? These guys, they look like serious soldiers. They weren't playing games. And they went in there and they did a fantastic job. And Washington, D.C. is now a beautiful, safe city. The restaurants are thriving. The people are walking down the street holding their husband or their boyfriend's hand, and they're not worried about being raped or mugged or shot at. And it's been an amazing thing. And we'll do that in every city. We'll do them sort of one at a time. We'll do a couple at a time. And we have a tremendous force because, as you know, in recruitment numbers, when we put out, 2 years ago, when Biden would put out recruitment, nobody would join. Nobody wanted to be in the military. Nobody wanted to be police. It was just announced this morning. You probably saw my speech over with the military, with the generals, admirals. Record numbers of people signing up for the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. I love Space Force. That was my baby. But we have record numbers of people signing up, and that includes police department, fire department. So, you know, it's been an amazing thing. Well, we're going to have another meeting next week on this. We have another great company coming in, similar kind of numbers. But we're going to show you some 1,000% drops in prices. There has never been anything like this in the history of medicine, and it's an honor. And Albert, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody behind me, because you are a great team. We have a great team. Everybody says you have a great cabinet. It's a great team. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
What's the company next week, sir?
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Brad.
President Trump with Health and Human Services Secretary Bobby Kennedy, to Dr. Mehmet Oz and Dr. Marty McCary, his health team making a massive difference. So building on that right to try from the first term to favored nation status through the executive order, and Pfizer cooperating, working with public and private partnerships in order to streamline those drug prices. And you heard from the White House press pool and that one reporter about insulin prices, bringing that down to an average of $35 in the first term. Of course, the Auto Pen administration taking credit for that when it was the Trump administration. Thank you to angelpaste.com for the miracle that is the go-to skin cream, among other products that will keep you glowing through these fall months. They are based in Spring, Texas. They're Christian owned and operated. They also hire veterans in the Lone Star State just off of the Gulf of America. Experience the miracle cream at angelpaste.com with an orange option, vitamin C infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, a facial spray for guys and gals so you can paint that town red and again keep your skin glowing as the warm weather goes into a colder season and you have the dry hands and all of that happening this time of year. Angelpaste.com. We love them so much here at the network. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as well as covepure.com/RSBN. $200 off of the reverse osmosis system that is as easy and simple to operate as your kitchen counter coffee maker. Drink Pure, Live Pure. You have Utah and Florida passing legislation to reduce the fluoride and actually get it completely out of the water. This includes pesticides, agricultural runoff, and yes, hormone disrupting blockers such as birth control. You might ask, how does that happen? Well, it has to go somewhere because the body does not absorb everything ingested orally, and water treatment centers don't always get everything out of the tap water. JAMA Pediatrics also doing a study of doctors and scientists finding that children who drink out of the tap on a regular basis will lose 2 or more points in their IQ over the course of a short period of time in their adolescence. It's just not good. So protect you, protect your family, protect what matters most. Drink Pure, Live Pure at covepure.com/RSBN. As we approach the 1 o'clock hour on the East Coast, get all America First updates and exclusive offers at Right Side Broadcasting Network by visiting rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. It's not just our live broadcasts or our original programming, but amazing writers at this network to dive into topics that are gigantic, happening in and around America, including internationally and including across the channels. That the price of gold just surged more than $3,800 per ounce on September 30th. The surge comes amid a record weakening of the U.S. dollar, and President Trump has said that might be beneficial ultimately to the American economy, as lots happening early on in this week. So stick with us as we bid you adieu on this early afternoon with a lot this morning happening from Quantico, Virginia at the Marine Base to there at the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and everything within your neck of the woods. Stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network for your go-to live desk in 2025. For all of my colleagues on the right side of history, God bless you. We'll see you very soon. And I'm Robert McNeely signing off for now. Have a great day.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk. from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.